Opinion Line with PJ Coogan on Cork's 96 FM.
1850 715 996. We thought Golfgate had gone away. It hasn't. We've already seen a cabinet minister resign. We've seen the last Cathaoirleach of the Seanad resign. We've now seen the European Commissioner resign. There's a very quiet ongoing investigation happening at judicial level into the Supreme Court judge that was there. We don't know what his future is until that report comes back. But there was an ambassador there at that dinner. That has caused the diplomatic editor with Diplomat.ie, Miceal O'Hurley, to become concerned. Miceal, good morning to you.
Good morning, PJ. How are you?
Good. Now, there was a very long list of, if we might call them the great and the good, at that dinner. Mm-hmm. One of them being the Moroccan ambassador. Does he play golf?
I know the ambassador. He's a great guy. He's a good ambassador. He's been an asset for both his country and for Ireland. But it's an odd fit to sit at a table at a golf outing for the Oireachtas, who was supposedly honoring a deceased member. It's just an odd fit.
Why would you think it to be odd?
Well, look at the people he's seated with. A Supreme Court Justice, the lady president of the Oireachtas Golf Society, senators, former senators, and a businessman who owns a hotel group. It was a table of honor, and he's the only foreign representative on the list. There's nothing wrong for it, per se. I mean, he's doing his job representing his government, building connections. But it does raise question if he's there, were deals being made at the table? Was this a way to soften up something for a deal? It's just an odd fit that he was the only foreign ambassador and the only foreign person at the dinner. Yeah,
it did stand out, all right. You can't say, what's he doing there?
Well, the thing that gets me, and I think the reason so many people, and I've spoken to ambassadors across Ireland who represent their countries, and I've spoken to TDs and senators, members of the Seanad. He's the only rich, powerful, and political person at that dinner who's not been asked to account for his presence, nor has he issued an apology.
And that's the decision he has to make. Have you called the ambassador?
I've reached out to the ambassador a couple times by phone and email, and each time I was met with silence. I reached out to Foreign Affairs to ask if they had a comment. They referred me back to the Moroccan embassy. So maybe he's going stiff-neck about it. That's his
Tell us a little bit about it. Is Ambassador Mahroul is his name? Am I pronouncing his name correctly?
Morawi.
Right. Tell me about him.
He's quite a dynamic person. He's been very good at making sure, like, for example, Morocco has been very good with tourism with Ireland. It's a great destination. He's promoted business. I know that he's been involved with the high-tech industry here in Ireland. There are great opportunities for our two countries, and he's been an able advocate, and I've always known him as a good and honorable man. But if we're going to ask for an EU commissioner, a Supreme Court justice, a cabinet minister, and everybody else to account for their activities, it's an odd thing that we don't ask him simply because he's an ambassador. He serves at the pleasure in Ireland of the government.
Right. He's invited to be here by the government.
Well, his government sends him. He presents his credentials, and the government has to either accept him or reject him as an ambassador. Mm-hmm. So ambassadors all serve at the pleasure of the government. The one thing, I guess, that set this off and how I got involved with the story is some of the ambassadors were somewhat upset because it makes the diplomatic corps look aloof, elitist, and uncaring. I don't know if you remember, but the Argentinian ambassador, Her Excellency Laura Bernal, who was a friend also, she died here in Ireland earlier this year, and she was buried in County Mayo.
Okay.
So it's not like COVID-19 doesn't affect the diplomatic corps. So it looks bad for diplomats, and it's not good for the health system if we start enforcing COVID regulations for some people, but not for others.
Now, you mentioned that obviously the ambassador serves at the pleasure of the government. There doesn't seem to be any call from government for him to explain his presence, does there?
There hasn't to date. It's very interesting that Taoiseach and Taoiseach told Phil Hogan, an EU commissioner, that he should consider his position. They fired 6 members of the Shannon, took the whip away from them. TDs have been reprimanded. A cabinet minister had to resign. But there's entire silence asking this ambassador to also be accountable.
Do you know if
his
the ambassador's own government has made any comment on this?
I've seen nothing in the press, and they've communicated nothing to me. So it's he would have diplomatic immunity in any case,
right?
But the issue for the Taoiseach was that Phil Hogan's and others' actions undermined the government.
Sorry to cut across you, Micheál. That wouldn't give him immunity from following COVID-19 restrictions.
Well, no, it wouldn't. But unlike other people in Ireland who can be prosecuted and fined, if you go to the U.S. Embassy website, they actually say the penalty on conviction for not abiding by Irish regulations is up to €2,500 or 6 months in prison. So if anybody was charged, that's the extent of the charges that are possible. He would, of course, be able to exercise diplomatic immunity. And no one's suggesting that people should be fined or imprisoned. But the question is either we're all in this together or we're not. Yeah. And when we have a Garda investigation that starts off by saying we're not interested in the attendees, but only the organizers, how can we then go into a pub and say to an individual, you're not wearing a mask, we're going to fine you?
It's
about equal application of the law.
It's a fair point. Micheál, while I have you there, I understand that you know something about, and we'll watch that, we'll see where that goes. You know something about some coins recently found.
Incredible find. If you remember when they were digging down by the brewery last year, they found some Viking artifacts.
Yes.
Now, a metal detectorist, an amateur, on banks of the waters in Glanmire, one of the tributaries to the Lee, has found a horde of ancient Viking coins depicting Volodymyr the Great, who was the Grand Prince of Kyiv. So these coins come from what is now Ukraine. They're over 1,000 years old.
How did they get here?
Most people don't think about it, but the Vikings came down the Dnieper River in Ukraine through the Mediterranean. They traded in Morocco. It's not uncommon to find Viking coins along with Arab coins.
So we've an old Viking, a Viking who dropped his wallet down around Glanmire somewhere.
Either he dropped it or they hid it. In times of strife, it was common to bury gold. That's why we find them in hordes, multiple coins. Yeah. Supposedly from the reports, this would be more than someone would carry around as pocket change. So this was a treasure that someone probably hid. It was in a leather purse that had disintegrated. The metal detectorist, a guy by the name of Robert Carley, according to reports. I know that the Ukrainian ambassador would like to look at the coins, congratulate him. Yeah. My wife's Ukrainian. We named our child Lorcan Volodymyr. I mean, Volodymyr the Great is very big in Ukrainian culture, and it's a great find, and it connects the two countries.
And very quickly, Micheál, because I need to go, do these have a value? Are they valuable? Could you put a monetary value on them?
Oh, absolutely. They're incredibly rare. And not only are they rare, but to be found here in Celtic Ireland makes them more extraordinarily precious beyond their metal value or other value.
We need to look into this a little bit more, and hopefully we'll come back to it, because that's a fascinating story. Viking coins from the Ukraine found in Glanmire. Give us a break. These are the weirdest things that happen. Miceal O'Hurley from Diplomat.ie, thank you so much for that, and we'll watch the story with the Moroccan Ambassador in the coming days. But I really want to look more into those coins, which hopefully we'll get to do in the short term. That's it, the programme today. Edited by Deirdre Shaughnessy, produced and researched by Fergal Barry. See you tomorrow.